being your best is not being better than everybody else. Like being your best is you versus yourself and what your potential is. So, my best and your best are going to be two different levels.
Welcome to Build Your Culture Brand with Dr. Jay Rains. Successful leaders make building healthy culture a priority. Meet other leaders who are building a culture where people want to stay and know how to win together.
Hey leaders, welcome back to the Build Your Culture Brand podcast. I have with me today Daniel Trotter from Phoenix, Arizona, Scottsdale 101. Welcome to the show, Daniel.
Thanks, Jay. It's great to be with you.
Daniel, you've been at your location now for about 14 years. And one interesting tidbit, I just learned that you actually were the interim manager at your location a few months before you became the operator. We're going to get into your story in just a minute, but I just thought that was kind of fascinating. We've got some exciting topics. I know you're leading in Drive-Thru. You're top 5% in CEMs. I want to find out some thoughts about how you've gotten there, but kind of getting to know you a little bit better. I want to ask this. It's a question we use to find out your strengths and weaknesses as a leader. What would you say would be a leadership superpower? I mean, you don't wear a cape, but if your team were talking about you, what would they celebrate as one of your leadership strengths?
I think my team would tell you that I'm pretty engaged with them, pretty passionate about helping them succeed at their role and what they're doing, and I'm in the mix with them every day. If I'm in the building, we are all working together, helping customers during those peak periods, and we've just kind of set that as a culture piece that nobody's really sitting in the office or having these meetings that nobody knows what they're talking about. We're usually in the fight together.
I bet that's really helpful right now because you have a neighbor that's closed and you're 40+% up in sales. So I'm sure it's a kind of all hands on deck situation right now. Sounds like. What would be a leadership weakness, your kryptonite as a leader?
Yeah, I think sometimes I can want to move too fast, and I miss the little details and the nuances of what we're doing. And so I really have to be careful about how quickly I want to move. And I've got some people in the organization that are really good at the details. I think Kevin. Kevin's really good at the details and helping make sure that we have a well thought out plan before we start making a whole bunch of changes.
That's good. And so understanding where that's an important part of being a leader, right? Knowing where you have some strengths, but also knowing where your gaps are and maybe fill in some of those gaps with the leaders around you. And I know you and Kevin work together and have worked together closely for quite a while, several years, longer than I've been associated with your team, but not longer maybe than I've known you. We met actually on a business project in India. You were there. I think you came along with Bruce Ploser, and we got to meet there. Really, you did a phenomenal job with our team there, teaching about leadership, and so that's kind of where I got to know you. But glad to get to work with your team now. So Daniel, long before we met, you have been in Chick-fil-A for quite a while, and I'm curious to know. I know you'd worked some with one of the other operators, and I want you to share about that story about Kevin. So how did you get kind of started with Chick-fil-A? What was that entrance story with you and your Chick-fil-A journey?
Yeah, so when I was turning 16, I can remember one night my dad kind of came in and said, "Hey, we're going to start looking for a car for you and your brother to share. I've got a brother that's 14 months older than me, but I'm not paying for gas and insurance." And I think that was his way of saying, "Hey, go get a job." And so I remember going around town looking for a job. I did not want to work in food at all. That was the last place I wanted to work. So I was applying at movie theaters, sporting goods stores. This was in 2001. And I could not find anywhere to get hired. And I had a friend at school who said, "Hey, I work at Chick-fil-A. It's fun. We've got a good group of people. Why don't you just give it a shot?" And so I reluctantly said, "Okay, I'll give it a shot." So I went and interviewed, got hired, and walked into Chick-fil-A and honestly just enjoyed the work, enjoyed the pace, the environment, all that kind of stuff. As a 16-year-old kid, and that was my start, and that was at Kevin Williams in Canton, Georgia. That was at his first location. He has three now, but that was at his first location way back when.
Oh my goodness. So, shout out to Kevin Williams, incredible operator there in Kenton. And uh, and Kevin has his own, we'll have to get him on the show sometime and hear about his story. He's got his own incredible journey with Chick-fil-A too. You and I were talking a while ago about, I was telling you about one of my operator friends that has one of the old cows from a billboard, and he was able to secure that, and he has it in their entrance to their office. That's always just a cool sight. But you were saying Kevin has a couple of cows. What does he do with those?
Yeah, so he's got like a little farm, and it's an incredible story of the farm that he needs to tell you. But there's some wooded areas, and there's some billboard cows out there in the woods, and you can see them looking out back the at the farm from the farmhouse, and it's just a real unique little setup.
That's awesome. I'd love to see a picture of that sometime. So, but what was it that, so, you kind of have this resistance in your own thinking about working in a food environment, a service environment like that. What kept you in? Now here you are, an operator. Um, what was that turning point for you?
Yeah, so like I said, I really enjoyed the environment and the work and the people I worked with at Kevin's store. And so I went to college pretty close to where the restaurant was. So I was able to stay working for Kevin through college. And when I was in college, one day I was at work, and I get a phone call in the morning that my dad had just had a heart attack. And so I leave work and go to the hospital and find out that he didn't survive the heart attack.
My goodness.
And through that, obviously that was a traumatic experience for our family. But through that, I saw how Kevin and some different people at Kevin's restaurant were the ones that rallied around me and kind of stuck with me through that. Kevin was the first one to bring a meal to our home, and he just really loved me and cared for me through that. And I think I always had like indications that maybe there was a career there for me, but that was when I was like, yeah, this is where I'm going. This isn't chicken. This is people. This is, um, I was a dumb college kid, and so I kind of look at it as two roads. When something like that happens, there's two paths I could have traveled, and Kevin was one of those people that kept guiding me through that season to make sure that I was in a good place.
My goodness, what a incredibly challenging story, and what what a tribute to, I mean, not only your father, and really just even that story of him, inspiring you to get a job, and I know there's so much more you could tell about him, but even just for someone to be there right at that moment, um, that's a tribute to his leadership and his care for you. I know right now Chick-fil-A's aim is to be the most caring company in the world, and it seems like moments like that really help shine, what they're trying to do and what leaders like Kevin are trying to do. And I've seen you exhibit that yourself toward your team, and just showing that kind of care as well. So what a powerful story.
Well, Kevin has been a big part of our family for a long time. We fast forward here 17, 18 years later. My mom works for him now,
Oh my,
doing some different things for him now. So
that's wonderful.
yeah, it's great.
Good deal. All right. Well, Kevin, I'm shouting out to you right now. I want to invite you to come join the show sometime. I want to hear more of your story. So we'll reach out to him. So Daniel, you know that I can imagine. I can't imagine really. I'm not even able to imagine the difficulty that you went through at that time. And and I know you've walked with your own team members through traumatic events, but also just life challenges, just daily life. And one of the things I've noticed about you is you look at them and you're looking for them to be healthy. And part of that health is an intentionality about allowing them time to process. And so what are some, if as leaders listening to this podcast, what might you offer as some best practices for making sure your leaders have ways to process and time to process life as it happens?
Yeah. So I think it starts with the foundation of trust, and they have to have a trust for me that as they're processing, and maybe some of the ugly comes out during processing, like it does a lot of times, that I don't respond to that immediately. Understanding that we're all going through a cycle, and allowing them to get that out, because I find more often than not, most people can get to a good place with just a small tip or two, versus trying to tell them where they should be or how they should be feeling about it, because they're the way you feel is valid, and sometimes you have to fight your flesh on that. But yeah, I think trust that I'm there for them, and I'm not going to pop off at them because they say the wrong thing or they have the wrong action in a moment of being upset.
Wow. Well, yeah, I can imagine that, it would be easy to be reactive in those moments, especially if it seems too far, like they took a step too far. But to give them that freedom, knowing it sounds like you just have this suspicion that if I let this, if this is a momentary thing, if I let this readjust back to more of a normal, that's the place where we can really grow. And I'm going to let this pass. I think that's incredible advice for leaders, especially leaders who typically are quick to react. And so, and I see you as a pretty fast paced leader, but it sounds like in those moments you're pausing just a bit. So good advice.
Try
Um,
to.
how does this play out if you do that? You've done that with your leaders. What are the how do you reap the benefit of those moments?
Well, I think it's more about allowing them to grow through it, because I think naturally when your boss is telling you to do something, you want to conform because you want to be a good teammate, a good team member. But if your heart and your behavior aren't moving at the same speed, then there's always that disconnect. So I feel like when you're able to get there on your own, you're moving your heart with your behavior, and it creates growth and change. And those things you look back on and say, yeah, I didn't handle that right, but here's what I learned from it.
I love that. Okay, hang on. If your heart and your behavior are not moving at the same speed, that creates a
Hmm.
dissonance. So you're allowing time for those to get synced back up because this is an emotional moment. Things are out of sorts, and you know it's going to merge back together. So so when you say heart, what's inside of heart, and how do you distinguish heart and behavior?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think your behavior is a byproduct of what's bottled up inside of you, and so I think I think natural tendencies is you want to change behavior. And so if you really want to change behavior, it's got to start with the heart. And so um, if somebody's upset about something, and we kind of swing that pendulum to get them out of the upset phase, but their heart never moves out of the upset phase, they're just trying to mask it, then you get right back to where you were pretty quickly.
If we react in those moments on their behavior and there is kind of a mask environment, it's almost like you're fixing the mask in that moment. You're forcing them to put on another mask to cover up their heart. And so you're basically, by responding in this way and helping them match their heart to their behavior, you're helping them be real. And man, yeah, this is good stuff. So how's that played out in your relationship with your leaders?
Well, I think it builds community. It builds relationship. Chick-fil-A has the core value of being better together, and sometimes I think we don't fully know what that means. But if we're really going to be better together, we have to know each other deeply. Know the nuances, know the quirks, know the strengths, know the things that are maybe a little tougher for some people. Um, and understand that none of us are the perfect leader. Like that person doesn't exist out there, so we're all going to fall short. But those shortcomings are just areas to grow, and not only grow at Chick-fil-A and as a leader, but just to grow in life in general, be a better person.
Have you noticed that your leaders also have learned to respond that way with you when your heart and your behavior aren't running at the same speed as you say? Have have they been able to turn that kind of response back to you where it's been positive?
Yeah, so it's really kind of funny. They've got their things that they like to poke fun at me about when I start getting upset about something.
Sure.
They like to remind me of that, and remind me. I think one of the big things in our business is call outs, and I think we all deal with that. And I can get upset about those a lot of times, and they have to remind me of, just stay out of it. This isn't your battle to fight. We've got this under control. You just need to stay out of it. That's not your lane to run in, and you know focus on what's really important.
That's good. That I a lot of times ownership, that idea pops up in leadership conversations, and I think that's another fascinating aspect of ownership. What you described is you're emotionally connected to the thing that's happening in the business, that you're not actually holding responsible. I mean, it's ultimately your responsibility, but you've asked them to take responsibility of it. But I'm noticing there's a nuance there of, if we get emotionally connected to what's going on in there, it's almost like a feeling of taking back responsibility and ownership for that thing. But your team wisely said, "Hey, we got this. We own this. Don't worry." So that's a, yeah,
Well,
fascinating aspect of ownership.
I think that they know that if I'm owning the wrong things, it doesn't put me in a position to be successful with the rest of the team.
Nice. So you knowing them knowing you, has been a really important key to your leadership journey with this team, and congratulations on that. So, Daniel, I was with you a few years ago, and we developed with your team. This was early on when we'd come up with this idea of developing a culture brand. And of course, that's the name of the podcast. And basically, a culture brand is your team's way of talking about, how do we do results? How do we do team? And how do we show up individually in our character? And you've selected your own culture brand. It's custom for you. No one else has selected the same three words you have for those three ideas. Talk to me a little bit about how culture brand over these last few years has helped your team. How do you use it? Some benefits. Let's dig into your use of culture brand.
Yeah, so our culture brand is best, unity, and care. And I think that really kind of embodies who we are, and who we have been. And when we put care in there, that was before we were the world's most caring company, or wanted to be the world's most caring company. So it kind of predates that aspect. But I think that's always been in the DNA and the fabric of who Chick-fil-A is. Um, but when we talk about best, it's being your best is not being better than everybody else. Like being your best is you versus yourself and what your potential is. So, my best and your best are going to be two different levels. But if we're focused on being the best version of ourselves, not just operationally and being fast and doing all this, but being the best teammate, being the best friend, being the um, best whatever it is that you're doing, if you're focused on just continually getting better and being the best at those things, it creates some um, magic through people. I think about it, in life. Like I can have the best impact if I'm focused on being the best dad and being the best husband. And so just trying to instill those things in our team that'll carry them throughout their life and give them a platform throughout their life of influence, is pretty fun. And moving into unity, we're all kind of in the restaurant world together, and I think we've all been in those situations where tensions can rise. But unity really speaks to like building trust, getting to know each other, understanding what's going on in life with each other, and just building that camaraderie and that team spirit. There's obvious business impact there that's pretty profound, but there's also life impact there. We want to be unified in what we do. Like nobody wants to be that one that is just trying to disrupt relationships everywhere in their life. And then care just speaks to, like I said, the way that we are, the way that we treat our customers, the way that we treat each other, the way that we treat. I mean, it can even be the way that we treat equipment. Like we just show care through what we're doing, in everything we're doing.
I love it. So Daniel, one of the, you have visitors come in and talk to you. They want to see your organization. They hear about some of your successes. And from what I understand, there's a couple of reasons they're coming to see you. One, you're in the top 5% on CEMs, but primarily it seems like most people are coming to see and learn more about your drive-through experience. You're in the top of your area on drive-through. So first of all, tell us, where are you ranked right now in drive-through, and then kind of unpack maybe some best practices of how you feel like you've gotten there.
Gotcha. So for the state, we're ranked number one in the state, and then we fluctuate between 1 and 4 for the West region, when we look at it that way. So those are the two we look at. I don't know what the chain wide rank is where we're at right now, but those are the two that we follow. And drive-through, for me, drive-through is just a personal passion of mine, and that's why I think we've always put a lot of effort into the drive-through. And we focus on two things. We focus on speed and accuracy. We feel like if somebody's going through the drive-through, they want to get through fast and they want to get what they ordered. And so that's not to say quality and some of these other things are not important. They're extremely important, but we find that those two metrics drive the experience for a customer through the drive-through. So we've never been shy to put the resources in drive-through. I have found that whenever you invest into the drive-through, that the ROI on it is pretty quick. So I remember early on when IPOS was first getting started, just kind of like stepping back and saying, what we're losing business right now because we don't have enough iPads. Like we just need to go buy a couple more iPads. And then the same thing when card readers came out, you could start doing card payments out there. And so a lot of it is just small nuanced things on, is there ample equipment? In the back of house, we always want more than enough henny pennies to fry the demand of chicken coming. So I kind of take that same thing to drive through. I want more than enough iPads, because if one crashes or forgot to get charged or whatever, iPads should never be the excuse. So just making sure that the drive-through is well resourced, and then constantly innovating in drive-through. I can't tell you how many drive-through systems that we've implemented over the years. It seems like every few months we're we're constantly tweaking something um, to make that experience quicker, better, um, and drive more cars in traffic.
What's a recent innovation that you found successful for drive-through?
So one that we're like in the middle of right now is um, we do a fairly good job of getting orders into the queue pretty quickly. Um, and systematically, we have every order taker taking their own payments. Um, but we haven't had when the cars come around, they're all out of order, and it's creating a little bit of bottleneck at the window, just trying to get all those. So we're going to add another person that just does the cash and sequences all those orders in order to hopefully get our drive off rate down to like the 12-second, 10 to 12-second range.
Okay, good. And so again, that's a labor investment, adding a person, but you feel like that ROI will come back pretty quickly once you get that in place. So sounds like a great plan.
Yeah, I mean every time we add a person, it kind of pays for itself on average like 7 cars. So if you can get 7 more cars through by adding a person, it kind of pays for
Okay.
itself on the labor side.
So just a rule of thumb, adding a person, typically, if you add the right person in the right place, you get 7 more cars.
That's your break even. I think you'll get more than that, but I think for us it seems like 7 is about the break even for adding that
Okay.
that labor in there.
Yeah, good. Good deal. So Daniel, if you're winning at drive-through like I hear you are, obviously you've developed some not only trust within your team because if you're if you're looking at speed and accuracy, those two are competing metrics, right? You're trying to go faster, but you're also trying to be accurate, and quality's in there too. Um, so there's trust within your team, but it sounds like you built some strong trust with your customer base. Um, what are some ideas about how to build trust with your customer? Just some maybe encouragement, ideas, best practices there with building customer trust.
I find I found it in my own organization, and I see it a lot as a customer. Going to Chick-fil-A as a customer, I see it when I visit stores, but we're so geared towards that peak hour sometimes that we lose focus of other times a day. And so I think building trust is building that trust of that for us in drive-through, that speedy experience, no matter what time of day they're coming through. So you know, it if they're going to come through at 9 o'clock in the morning, um, a lot of times I find 9 o'clock is a tough speed of service time for a lot of restaurants. But we want to make sure that they're still getting through in that 3 minute, 2 minute window, whatever it may be, at 9 o'clock, just like they are at 12:30. Because I don't think a customer equates the time they're coming to Chick-fil-A with the level of speed that they're going to get.
I love
So
that.
I
Yeah,
think that's a big one.
that's so good because they may be testing you out at those odd times, and you don't even know you're being tested, but whether they realize it or not, they're testing you, and you have this opportunity to develop trust. So, what are some ways that you try to work on those different times of the day and keeping it speed up? What are some common like standard operating procedures that y'all use?
So we've done a pretty good job of having monitors around where you can see the length of the drive-through line, and we have a little saying: "An empty drive-through is a happy drive-through." And so what that does is that keeps us geared up instead of like kicking up and performing at a pace when the line gets long. It's we're at a pace to keep the line empty. So doing that, we've set up just where the equipment is. So many times iPads and things are in the back of the restaurant. We have them in the front of the restaurant so that if we do start to see cars stack up, we can quickly send another order taker outside. Even if it's for 5 or 10 minutes at a time, but just really always having that focus on keeping the drive-through empty instead of waiting for it to stack up.
So just even cutting down the steps it would take to go back to get an iPad and out front to get to the order, you've just eliminated some of that friction there. But what a beautiful picture of, yeah, keep the drive-through empty. That's the visual. That's the win, is empty drive-through, happy drive-through. That's a great picture. Well, Daniel, thanks for joining us on the show. I really appreciate you sharing just your journey, some of the challenges you faced. I know people can, hopefully there's people out there that can just be encouraged and identify with that, but also some of your best practices. People come all over the country to see some of these things. Thank you for sharing those here. Maybe they want to go and see it with their own eyes still, but I would imagine that some of these ideas would just be useful immediately upon hearing them as they talk with their team or share this podcast with some of their other leaders. So thanks for being on the show and sharing your story.
Well, thanks for having me, Jay. I enjoyed it. I always enjoy getting to spend time with you, and I've learned so much from listening to some of your previous episodes, and I think it's a good testimony of how we truly are better together, and it's about doing it together and going a long way. I think this business has a long way ahead of it, and we have to work together to get there.
Good word. So leaders, you've heard Daniel talk about his culture brand and how he has his own custom way he describes culture. Maybe you would like that for your own team. Our team is ready to work with you and help you do that and show you the 5 or 6 ways that culture brand can impact your business, from hiring to coaching to development to leadership development to all of these different areas. So visit us at buildyourculturebrand.com for more information and to get a hold of us.
Thank you for listening to Build Your Culture Brand with Dr. Jay Rains. We hope you enjoyed this podcast. Visit our website at buildyourculturebrand.com for our free culture brand assessment. See you next time. We would like to note that Leaders Q serves individual owner-operators and their teams and is not affiliated, endorsed by, or in any way officially connected with Chick-fil-A Incorporated.